Hello and good morning. My name is Jane Turner and I am an FBI whistleblower. July 30th is National Whistleblower Appreciation Day. This is the 8th year of honoring whistleblowers. This day is about you. It is set up to honor you, to enlighten you, and to say you are not alone. You are not forgotten. This has been a high-profile year for whistleblowers. Whistleblowers have constantly been in the news, and we continue the fight for National Whistleblower Day to be permanent and have a ceremony honoring our whistleblowers. But most vital is to let each and every one of you know that you are not only appreciated, but embraced. How can this happen? We do have one way. If you, as a whistleblower, contact the National Whistleblower Center and provide your pertinent information, we will feature an article in the Frontline Whistleblower News about you. And we will list all your pertinent information and website details. Websites like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram that you're plugged into. If appropriate, we can start a GoFundMe. But what is important is that you, the whistleblower, know that you are not alone and you are not forgotten. With that, let me introduce you to a man who started it all. Stephen Martin Kohn, who along with his brother, Michael Kohn, and fellow attorney, David Colapinto, started Kohn, and Colapinto, a Washington, D.C. law firm, and later the National Whistleblower Center. Stephen is recognized as the top expert in whistleblower protection law. He has been serving the legal and whistleblower community since 1984. He has represented high-profile whistleblowers like Linda Tripp, Fred Whitehurst, Bradley Birkenfield, and so many others that we would have to have a full day just examining the many individuals who have sought justice from Stephen and gotten it. He is a warrior for whistleblowers, a pit bull, a passionate advocate. How do I know? He has represented me for almost 20 years against the FBI and won a brutal and bitter fight. Bitter on part of the government for 20 years. And later, he is still pursuing my back pay. That's the kind of pit bull and passionate advocate that Stephen is. It is my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce a giant and a warrior in the whistleblowing world, Stephen Kohn.
Stephen, are you muted?
Well, thank you very much, Jane. Those were very, very warm and great words. I only hope I can live up to those expectations, but thank you. And I will say it's been a pleasure to represent you and the battles you've been through. So thank you. So today, I'm here to talk about Whistleblower Day, its history, and how it came about. I'm an attorney full-time, but I also like history. And in writing my book, The Whistleblower's Handbook, I said I need to find out the first American whistleblower case and whatever happened. And just going through history, we stumbled upon an incident at the very creation of America. 1777, 6 months after the Declaration of Independence was signed. And these were 10 sailors and Marines who volunteered to fight the British. But they learned that the Commodore, the head of the United States Navy, in their view, was corrupt. So what occurs is they have to blow the whistle, not on the British, but on their own leadership. And not only was the Commodore, the head of the Navy, very powerful, come from a wealthy family from Rhode Island, his brother was a signer of the Declaration of Independence, former governor of Rhode Island. So again, you're seeing precisely what you see in many whistleblower cases. Some working people, these sailors and Marines, versus an extremely powerful individual with wealth and connections. So these 10 sailors and Marines sign a petition. They accuse their commander of a variety of corrupt acts. What I found most interesting, they accused him of mistreating British prisoners. Their exact words, they treated prisoners in the most inhumane and barbarous ways. So their allegations against the head of the US Navy, if made public, would be embarrassing. So 10 people signed the petition. One sailor jumps ship without permission, travels from Rhode Island to Philadelphia, the Continental Congress, and presents the petitions. And now we have the first whistleblower case in American history. The whistleblower to Congress against a powerful man. What happens? What happens to those 10 sailors and Marines? Well, we can kind of imagine what would happen today. But what did our founding fathers think should happen? What did they understand the government they were creating, how they should treat whistleblowers? What was their actions? Well, they listened to the one sailor, a captain who had jumped ship. They took his testimony, they reviewed the facts, and they suspended the head of the Navy and later terminated him. They listened. Well, the head of the Navy, Commander Hopkins, was not happy with these whistleblowers, which is typical. No one likes it. So he went and tried to arrest them all for seditious libel. And back in the day, you could be arrested and put in jail for this. And he was able to capture 2 of them, Marvin and Shaw, in Rhode Island, filed suit against him and had him put into jail. The others had left the state or could not be found. And now you roll out the second part of this history. How does the US government deal with the retaliation? So Marvin and Shaw, they write a letter to Congress. And I have to go back just so you know, this whole history was first told in my Whistleblower's Handbook. I wrote an entire chapter on it. And maybe my memory is not so good. I have to go read the letters and things. I should remember it. Well, they write a letter back to Congress. And this letter, which I dug out of the archives, my law clerks did, they were working with me, they're very good people, unbelievable. Because it was a letter that I have read maybe 1,000 times in my 30 years representing whistleblowers. The sentiments and the issues was exactly what I hear today. And here's what they wrote. First off, they said, not being persons of affluent fortunes, but young men who are in service to their country. that your typical whistleblower is not a wealthy millionaire. And they're usually in service to a corporation, to a company. They're workers. Then they say this, being held to bail in a state where they were strangers, meaning they had been arrested in Rhode Island, put into jail, without connections to assist them. And that is so typical. When someone becomes a whistleblower, they often don't have connections. They don't understand the law. They don't have lawyers. They don't have this is a new experience. And here's the key, against a powerful as well as artful person who has the advantages of his office and has, through this war, amassed great wealth. So you can also see some of their issues dealt with fraud and war profiteering. But that's the dynamic. So they write again to Congress, we need help. Now, I just want to put this into context. The original allegations were in 1777, as I said, 6 months after the Declaration. This letter comes out in June of 1778. You're in the middle of a revolution, a war on American soil. The founding fathers, and you can hold whatever opinion you may want about them, but in this specific case, they were fighting colonialism. They were fighting to create a new democracy. But if they lost that war, they would be hung for treason. This isn't a case of getting some bad polling results or maybe losing an election. They themselves were facing death. And as we all know, the Revolutionary Army was underfunded and they needed help. Why are they going to spend all this time on some whistleblower in jail? Well, they did. They stopped whatever they were doing. They reviewed the facts of the case and they met again. And they unanimously did three things. First, they vote to release all of the records of the whistleblowing incident. So there was no Freedom of Information Act, but they release it. And that would include information that was embarrassing to the government. They're releasing information about how we, the new America, were abusing prisoners. Second, they pass America's first whistleblower law, which I'll read shortly. Third, and this is my favorite part, well, maybe second, but they vote to hire lawyers to represent the whistleblowers. So just think about that. They needed every penny for guns and bullets. They're fighting for the country itself. Yet they found these whistleblowers so important that they were going to take some part of that tiny little treasury and use it to hire lawyers to defend these people, which they did. And we went into the National Archives, we found the check they wrote. So then the resolution, and this is why we have National Whistleblower Day. This is when the founding fathers set the stage for all whistleblowers. And this is why July 30th is the day we must celebrate all whistleblowing. Because on July 30th, 1778, the founding fathers of the United States of America passed the first known whistleblower law in the world. And it is something we can be proud of. And their words, and again, I wish I could remember them, but I have to read it here in the handbook, and I'll read it. It is the duty of all persons in service of the United States, as well as other inhabitants. They didn't say citizen, they said inhabitants, anyone here in this country, to give the earliest information to Congress or any other proper authority of any misconduct, frauds, or misdemeanors committed by any persons. And there it is. That is the whistleblower credo. That's why we celebrate National Whistleblower Day. And that's why it needs to be a permanent law recognizing the tremendous sacrifices of so many for the public good. Thank you so much.